taking the time to be here. This is just such a dream come true. I have a question for Sheryl. Sheryl, I understand that David would make you feel safe, and you were pushed, and your character was pushed to the limits on every level, physically, psychically, emotionally. I wondered if there was any time that David asked you to do anything that was just too weird or just too outlandish that you felt maybe it was stretching the limits a bit.
Yeah, and it had to do with a pig head. And I couldn't do it. You know, there were many scenes in the film that we filmed more than once, you know, because it would be with Leland and then with Bob. You know, scenes where there's cutting back and forth. And there was a scene in the bedroom. Now let me say this first by saying, I trust David so much as a director, and I was really, really fortunate because, like I said, I was young, but I felt so safe with him, and also it surrounds you with people that are gonna help you feel safe. He's wonderful about that. His cast, his crew, all the people in that world are just, they're kind and they're exceptionally talented and creative and supportive of each other as well. So you have, you know, from every department, you're feeling that. And we were shooting in Laura's bedroom, a scene, you know, one of the bedroom scenes. And we had shot it a couple times, and I just had a funny feeling that there was something weird going on. But that wasn't, it's not like, on that set, if you had a funny feeling that there was something weird going on, there was something weird going on, and like it was just like, oh, okay, well, what is it going to be this time? And I kind of heard something about, well, is it here yet, or you know, something like this, and it was coming from a butcher, and it was going to be in one of the scenes. And fortunately, the DP saved my ass that day because he said, she can't physically do the scene. I said, David, I can't. I can do all this other stuff, but I can't do the scene with a pig head in the bed. And he said, really, why? I just can't. I really can't. Like anything else, I just can't do that. And the DP saved and said, no, physically, it could be dangerous. It could fly off. It could hit her. The camera's too close. And that's the only thing that I remember. And there were so many times that he would come to me and say, this is what we're going to do today. And I would think, I don't have a clue how I'm going to get there, how we're going to do that, how that's going to happen. But I'll jump in and you know, do what I can. And he just takes, you know, we had this way of working that I was so grateful for. He would say, or I would say, I need to walk and talk. And he would sort of take my hand off set, and if I was feeling like I was a little bit lost or needed help getting into the scene. And I almost feel like I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's almost like he could hypnotize me. It's like he'd say, okay, well, you know, you're just coming from Donna's house, and he just would talk, you know, in this gentle way. And it's exactly like what she was saying about creating a mood, that this mood or this color or this ambiance would start to fill you or come over you, and then he would just say, action, and you'd be there.
Bob, what was the pighead scene? What was the meaning of the pighead scene?
No idea. I wasn't in on that one.
Hey guys.
We used all the fingertips and all that stuff. When you see, you know, body parts and all that, those were pig fingers. Those are pig knuckles. That's what you know, all the you know, in the movie, it's in the movie, right? They look at Laura's fingernails and they go in. Those are all, that's all big stuff, right? Like you need to know that.
Yes. Hey guys, thanks for coming over. I was going to ask a film student type question, but I was so inspired by the first guy that I'm not going to ask a question I've been wanting to ask since I was 12 years old. Can you talk about the Mike character, Al Strobel, and then Michael J. Anderson's character? Because it seems in the show that that he didn't know who Bob was inhabiting, or who the Laura Palmer's killer was. But here it's kind of clear that he knows that it's Leland. And not only that, there's that whole scene with the Garmonbozia and the pain and sorrow. So I'm just kind of curious about what part he really plays, both of them actually, in the whole Black Lodge scenario. And what does the blue rose mean?
Next question. Mike and Bob, were you talking about? Are you asking about?
One arm left.
Well, one is he's the arm, right? That's right. There was a whole thing about what Garmonbozia was, and I don't mean to dismiss it at all, but the whole idea of where they came from. There was a whole idea that at one point in the movie that we were going to get them back to the planet of Garmonbozia, right? And that's what they want to do. They want to go back. There's a I hate to use that word. It's a portal somewhere near Twin Peaks, right? That's how they're going to get back to the planet, right? So how much they knew in their in existence in Twin Peaks in America, I'm not sure what they knew. Do you know what I mean? But they knew they wanted to get back, right? And Garmonbozia is the planet they're from, which is a planet of cream corn.
I never knew that.
You just blew my mind.
That was always the plan. I'm sure David.
You mean it's a
I'm
whole
sure
alien
David's
thing?
gonna kill me now, but I think that was the secret, that it was Garmonbozia was a planet of cream and corn. Did you
Why cream corn?
That because he talked backwards, right? Because Mike talked backwards, that the only way to get into the portal was that Truman would have to drive his car backwards. So we had a long time trying to figure out how could we have him drive backwards and still talk forwards and still make sense, and then one time someone from ABC came to see the shoot, and he said, how do you do the backwards thing? And then David turned the camera upside down, which of course makes no sense. He turned the camera upside down, so that's how we do it. And like, oh God, no, thank you. What?
The Blue Rose.
Blue Rose comes from, speaking of who did what in the collaboration, Blue Rose comes from a play, Tennessee Williams play,
Blue Roses.
Glass Menagerie, yes.
Glass
Blue
Menagerie,
Roses, right, that's where it comes from. The Blue Roses from Blue Roses.
That's a disease.
I always figured it was an X-Files. So another esoteric question, but David Bowie says we're not going to talk about Judy. Can you talk about Judy? And it's just there's a weird thing if even in the one shot of the monkey's face on the DVD, when you put the subtitles on, it says Judy, and you can't hear the word Judy in the soundtrack. So someone put that there. It's very random, and I've been debating this with other Twin Peaks nerds for years. So I just like to ask someone who has some actual authority.
It's completely random. Judy is my wife's sister. One of the big things you do when you write on television is that one of the questions in the writer's room is always, you got anybody you want to say hi to out there? Don't you notice that when you watch television? It's like, what about Anderson? And it's clearly they're saying hi to somebody, right? And that's what it was. Judy was, and Judy was connected to Wyndham Earle, and was, I think, Josie's sister, I think. Of course, now I'm going to burn in hell for saying this stuff.
I guess just the casting of David Bowie. I'm curious how that.
Well, okay, you got to ask these guys something.
You're right. You know what? Actually, I did want to ask James Marshall about when you were filming the episodes when you're not in Twin Peaks. How did that? What did that seem strange?
I didn't hear it. Go.
When you're the episodes where you leave the town.
Yeah.
What was that like to do that? Did that?
It hurt. I didn't like that. I felt it wasn't my place to say anything, although I said stuff gently. I don't know what exactly was going on. I think there was a lot of dynamics going on at the time with the storylines and actors and people putting in input and all kinds of stuff. And I didn't want to be one of the people constantly rocking the boat with the writers and everybody just trying to hold steady, So I kind of went, why is he doing that? And he went, he's doing it. Let's just figure this out, and this is how we're gonna go. I didn't really understand it, and I didn't think it. I thought the James Donna thing was real special in its innocence. Again, the odd thing about the innocence is I don't know how you write for that and elongate that kind of thing without it becoming a total yawn, you know, after a while, because they're both so innocent and it's so, they're tender, and their love was very Romeo and Juliet-like, you know, and but I would have rather have explored that, even if it started to get boring, than, because what it made my character look like is it just became something that's like kind of, yeah, it's like, he's so soulful, and then all of a sudden he's soulless. You know, it's all of a sudden now he's just kind of going with this lady. Now he's over here. And now, you know, I didn't get it, and I didn't feel it was my place to rock the boat too much, to say too much. Although I did say something at first a little, but I didn't. You know, it's like, who am I to say, you know, to the writers what's going on? I didn't want to be a pain in the butt, and I didn't want to protest, you know, too much. But I do agree. I thought I would have much rather it was betraying my own self. And it just didn't, it was unseemly. There was something weird about it, but yeah.
Thank you all so much for coming.
You know what, I should just, one more thing, and then I promise I'll shut up. The thing about David Bowie came from the fact that David and I were writing another script, and I was always at the house, and Debbie Tretnick, that's what I'm getting at, who was David's assistant, who was really, I don't think she appears on the credits, she was his assistant for 10 years, 15 years, and she was really a huge part of the glue of the whole process from the series to the movie, right? I mean, she was the keeper of all the secrets, right? You couldn't get to David unless you talked to Debbie, and Debbie would always say, when we'd be writing, she'd say, and then will there be a part for David Bowie? And that's actually why David Bowie's in the movie, right? Because that was going on for almost 3 years, and Debbie would always say, and where's David Bowie in this series? And finally David said, I call it David Bowie's in.
Hi, this is a question for Ian. You said you only get a couple pages from the script for each episode. So you said that Twin Peaks was a bit of a, you didn't really know what was going on. So for all the viewers, cast and crew, the big mystery is who killed Laura Palmer. For you, was it who's the father?
Yeah. That's all that really mattered. Yeah, I had no relationship with anybody else. I didn't even know who Laura Palmer was. We never, our characters, they discussed it elsewhere, but not when I was around us. But thank you for asking that. Yeah. I don't even know who the father was actually at the end of the day. Did we ever decide that?
I don't think we ever found that.
No.
No, I don't think we did.
It was either Harry or him.
Yeah, it was you, Rick.
I love that final scene with Dick, Andy, and Lucy, because it's really kind of like one of the last big laughs of the series, and then the film is so intense. So I'm curious to know, just briefly, was there ever a role for Dick Tremaine in the film, or was that just a storyline that didn't make sense to bring in?
I don't remember.
No, I didn't know.
I don't think
no,
so.
No, it wasn't ever discussed. I think.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I don't think Dick would work on film. I don't think Dick would work on the big screen. Too many clashing, like, plaids.